at least 7 minutes, right?
Some longer.
We're good. Good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Regional Governing Board of Southwestern Vermont Regional Technical School District, Monday, January 14th, 2019. We'll open it up to the public. Seeing no public, let's move on to the consent agenda. Minutes from the Regional Board's meeting on Monday, December 17th, 2018. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Fran made a motion, Ed second. Any discussion? Seeing none, raise your right hand, please, if you agree. Unanimous? Payroll warrants, number 16, number 1025, number 17, number 1029.
So moved. Second.
Franny moved, John second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please raise your right hand if you agree. Unanimous? Vendor warrants, 1026, 1027, 1028.
So moved. Second.
Franny moved, John second. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand if you agree. It's unanimous. In your Dropbox, there is the cash flow and the revenue and expense reports. Committee reports, we had a bunch of them this last month. Education and facilities, is that you, Ed, Chairman? Or is that?
Yeah, but you were there.
I was, but you know what? Mike was there too, so I guess we moved right down the line.
I think Fran was there too.
Yes, he was.
We did have a meeting this week of a combined meeting with the Facilities Committee and the Finance Committee and Education Committee. And essentially, we reviewed the plans to move six courses that are currently at MAU to the CDC next year. And I'll defer to the superintendent, who will give us much more detail on that, because I don't have a list in front of me of what they are. But the teachers are retiring at MAU, and there will be no loss of jobs, and it cuts the MAU budget. And the state pays the CDC more per student hour than they're paying MAU. So the taxpayers get a little break.
So, so the courses that are currently offered at Mount Anthony, Ed is correct, there are 2 instructors, longtime instructors that are retiring from Mount Anthony. And so the courses in which they currently teach will be shifted to the CDC. And those courses are 1422, Microsoft Office, 3184, Money Matters, which is like our personal finance, 3350, which is computer applications and office apps. Those are going to our business program. Also, course 3020, Adobe Photoshop, course 910, graphic design, and course 915, advanced graphic design. Those will be also courses that are offered here at the Tech Center for next year. If you approve the graphic arts instructor agenda item later on down the road tonight, which I hope that you do. And also, we'll be co-teaching a course next year, course number 3353, which is 3D printing and robotics. It's going to be a co-taught model with Adam Canastrasi, who of course is our manufacturing instructor, and Doug Paddock, who is a computer instructor next door, and that proposed this course. We're going to co-teach that, whether it be here in the CDC and or over in Doug's classroom. Doesn't really matter. And it's going to be offered opposite of our CAD class in one semester. So it should be a good opportunity both for co-teaching and for students to experience the Tech Center that they may not have normally visited. So those are the courses that are being shifted, if you will, or being taken on here at the center. I guess the ed, facility, and finance, they all run together, so I might as well just report on all of them. We were able to find the money within the current warned and approved, as the board adopted, budget in order to fund the position. We did move money around within the budget from line items. A couple members asked for that to be shown in not necessarily rewarned, but so the board could see it tonight and be transparent to the public where that money is coming from. So in your Dropbox as well, you will see a new prepared budget with the line item. This is graphic arts highlighted in yellow, and it has the amount of $50,000. That is the money, again, where that came from. Is we had budgeted $50,000 for program enhancements, and so we took 25 out of that, if you will, to move it towards the new position. We also, Stephanie, can you help me out on the other?
We had $70,000
Thank
budgeted
you.
for an upgrade to
Our
the
student management software.
system, but based on where the state is at, we kind of want to wait and see.
We're going to table that.
And we took the remainder out of the reserve, not the reserve, I'm sorry, the contingency line item.
Which is about $6,000 to $8,000 is what we're pulling out of that. That's where that money came from. So you'll see that in the Dropbox. We also spoke about, during those meetings, our equipment grant and approval for a coordinate measuring machine for manufacturing. I don't know how far I'm going to go.
Keep going?
Keep going?
Yes, please.
Okay. Also in there, in those meetings that we had, we also talked about the duties of the business manager being temporarily transferred to the assistant business manager to cover those duties for the remainder of the school year while we post for a position and go through that process. There was a lengthy discussion about that and how we wanted to go about that. I think that Ricky has a motion later on that was worded correctly, that I think is what we all wanted. I would want to point out that Stephanie Mulligan, this is her last board meeting with us. Stephanie's been with us 6.5+ years, and she's been a great asset to the district, both as a colleague and a friend, and we wish her well in her future. I know that she's not going to disappear from the face of the earth. We're still going to see her from time to time as she continues to help transition the business office to the interim role and the new role over the next few months. So Stephanie, thank you for all of your hard work and your contributions to the organization and our community, and you are going to be missed for sure. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
All right, that's what I have.
I don't think you should leave.
Sorry, Ken. Back to you.
It's nice to be needed and wanted.
All right, now,
All right.
do we want to go into finance? Or is that pretty much going to be covered?
Basically, I mean, we've kept our budget, I don't have anything in front of you, but I think we're down to 3%, Stephanie?
2.8.
As far as what the budget was going to be.
I'm sorry, hold on for one second. The overall change in the budget was, I
2.8.
believe, was 2.9, but I can check. It hasn't changed since you voted
Right.
last month, and I will get
Right.
that number for you.
Yeah.
And I think to the administrator's credit, I mean, we've basically kept this budget pretty low over the last 5-6 years. I mean, and giving the taxpayers a break, so I think it's good that we could put these other programs in and still not raise that budget.
I agree.
So
I think we've all been very conscious of.
Yep. Yeah,
The
that's one
increases.
thing that we do, so.
Yeah, the committees reviewed the financing during their committee and voted to approve it as a recommendation to the full board for approval.
Yep.
It was a policy meeting.
Can I clarify, just
I'm
so...
sorry, go ahead.
So the number, the 2.8% that I was thinking, was the change in the announced tuition. That's going to be...
Right, okay.
Because
Yeah, you're right.
So our budget, the increase in our budget is actually 6.8%, but the actual impact to the sending schools, which is the important part, is the 2.8.
That's fine. Perfect.
It's the number we focus on.
Just to
Thanks.
clarify, yeah,
Could
sorry.
you explain those numbers a little more? I understand the 2.8% increase to the sending districts, but when you've got an overall increase of,
Well, what the voters are voting on are the expenditures that we've budgeted for next year. And so as a district, we've budgeted $3.6 million for next year that we expect to spend. But things that offsetting revenues before the sending schools tuition are things like out-of-district
Okay,
out-of-district revenue that's coming in and offsetting before, Mount Anthony or Arlington or something pays. And so that's why there's a difference that's why there's a difference in those.
So the impact to what sending districts and towns feel is at 2.8.
Right. I mean, this is different than the others, the high school or the schools that are going out to vote and asking for an increase in budget. That's like in that case, that is a more, somewhat, I don't want to say more, but like, it's just a different perspective. Like that's tied to the increase in the budget, but ours is really tied to what we're charging for tuition. So we've worked hard to keep that tuition number as low as we can.
Right.
yeah, we've kept the tuition low for years and years, and someday it may catch up with us, but we've managed it so far.
Well, if we continue to keep increasing our FTEs, that tuition is going to stay
entirely level.
Right,
Or
level. That would be the goal, is to keep it.
Policy, they had a meeting tonight. Anybody want to give us a little update on what happened?
We did.
Art?
The policy on policy was finalized, and it was warranted, so for everybody to look at.
Okay.
The superintendent evaluation was reviewed with no changes. The idling of vehicles was reviewed and no changes. The dress code policy is, I guess, still under consideration. We're going to talk some more, but that's largely going to be related to the student handbook for dress code. The 6140 telecommunications and network policy is ultimately going to be replaced, or is being replaced, by the 6141 computer network and internet acceptable use, and that's going to be taken up at the next policy board, as are the remaining 7100 and the C7195 and C7300, just have to be looked at yet.
Yeah. And just for the public's knowledge, these policies that are in the policy meeting right now are all present policies. They're just being reviewed and updated. We're not handing out any new policies, per se. Okay.
Well, basically, yes, with the exception of the dress code. Apparently, there is no CDC policy on
I see.
dress code.
Okay, good to know.
I thought, I don't mean to interrupt, but I thought we had one at one time some years back.
We have a dress code, but no policy.
Okay.
In the handbook.
There are safety requirements
Yeah, it's in the-
that
Yeah.
have to be met, we're addressing the dress requirements, and now we're putting that into a policy.
Those are addressed in the curriculum itself.
Okay.
And that's addressed pretty nicely, at least in my opinion, in the student handbook.
There was, all these things were in the student handbook, but there was never a policy written.
I wasn't aware of that.
Well,
Who
give the
discovered that?
accolades to Mike, he
Oh, yeah,
he
thanks.
figured it out.
I'm the one that found that one.
All right, I guess we'll move on. I think all the policy, or all the committee reports are pretty much done for the month. Let's go into some action items. We have a copier bid. That
You
should be in
will.
your drop.
Well, it depends on what.
It is in the Dropbox.
It's in the Dropbox, but here's a hard copy as well. We chose different colored paper tonight, so we could say what color paper it was. The reason that you're getting this a little late is one of the last quotes was today, so our copier that's in the office, the lease is up. We historically lease copiers for 3 years. That one is done very soon, and we're happy to see it on its way. So that's all I'm going to say about that. The 3 quotes we received, as you can see there, they're all within dollars of each other, quite frankly. There's very little difference. But we are recommending the SimQuest bid. We're happy with them. We've had their service for a long time. It's not much different than the other ones, but that's who we're recommending to go with is SimQuest.
Would you like a motion?
Okay, I'll move that we accept the SimQuest Police Office copier bid.
Second.
Motion made, Ken second. Any further discussion?
I have one question. At one point, I was down here signing warrants and noticed the charge for the copier, and I asked if anybody had explored whether or not it would be cheaper to own the machine instead of leasing it, and I was just wondering if anybody followed up on that and
Yeah,
came to a conclusion.
Yes, the conclusion is that the leasing is far more lucrative for us with the, because it includes a service contract with it. I mean, if we had to pay
Okay.
for the repairs on this last machine, I think we'd be broke. And it includes our toner, and it's just a much better deal. And they come fix it, and at the end of 3 years, they come and get it, take it away, and we get another one. So it really is the best, I think, for the center.
Thank you. That's what I,
Yep,
that's what I
How long is the
thought,
lease?
but
3 years.
sort of due diligence to ask
Yes.
some questions.
Understood.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, raise your right hand. Agree? Unanimous? Okay, we're looking at the equipment purchase of the coordinate measuring machine.
Okay, so in your Dropbox, there should be a copy of the quote analysis. We spoke about this at the finance of the joint committee to recommend a coordinate measuring machine. Part of this money will come from our local equipment grant that we received from the state. $28,000 worth, comes from the state equipment grant, with the other 18.6 coming from our local budget. There were 3 quotes. You can see them there. Helmel, I'm going to butcher some of these, $35,600. Hexagon 4.5 for $35,244. And the Zeiss Duramax for $46,600. It is recommended by the advisory committee that we purchase the Zeiss Duramax, even though it is the most expensive machine. It comes with the most software support that's included with it, as well as instructor training. So the actual total cost of ownership is lower than it would be for a lower model. So again, $28,000 of this is being paid for by the equipment grant that we do receive. It is a coordinate measuring machine, and I'm going to rely on someone else in the room. John, maybe?
John, right.
All right, thank you, John. Not my area of expertise.
So it's a, it's a computerized measuring machine. So you put a part in this machine and you kind of touch it off, and you can teach the machine different repetitive moves to make to then measure your parts. So.
And this scans also.
Yep. Yeah, and it'll put it together, and some even, even you can take it farther from there into 3D models afterwards and all that kind of
And the
stuff. So it's
reason
really
we
cool.
need it is because,
It's current technology for our manufacturing and program. That's
Yep.
something we don't have, and
Yep.
the advisory board highly recommends that we have one for training students on modern equipment.
Yep. And it fits in with industry needs around here too. So I'm really happy about it.
Good.
Thanks, John.
That's important.
I presume at some point it would also spit out the coding for a CNC machine so that you could measure a part.
You can't quite go that far with it.
Can't do it yet?
I was going to say, that sounds good, so thanks.
We did that at GE.
Computer drafting can do that, though.
Of course, it cost them about $30 million to develop the software to do it.
So we are recommending the Zeiss Duramax.
How about a motion, gentlemen? Lady?
So moved.
John and John. Motion and second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, raise your right hand. In favor?
When will that arrive?
Thank you.
Well, so I will get the purchase order in tomorrow and submit that, and I'm not sure what the delivery time is for.
It's not important, I'd just like to see it.
Just a paper.
Well, we can let the board know. I would bet it's probably not going to be before the next board meeting, but you never
I would imagine more than 30 to 60 days, probably.
Mike, can you get paper with this, please?
No. That'd be great.
All right,
Next.
we'll move on to the interim duties of the business manager.
So there was a lot of discussion at the last committee meeting that we had about how we move forward for the next few months in Stephanie's absence. And during that discussion, it was recommended that the current assistant to the business manager, Kathy Vosberg, be assigned the duties of the business manager on an interim basis until we post and interview and hire for a business manager. That is some of the discussion. I think Ricky has
I do.
a motion, but I'll be happy to.
Well, we can go into discussion after we make the motion.
Okay.
How's that?
Fine.
I'll make the motion that we assign additional duties of the business manager to Kathy Vosberg on an interim basis until the business manager is hired. The additional compensation for the duties will be paid bi-weekly and shall be no more than $11,600 ending June 30th, 2019. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
I made the motion, Fran second, discussion.
We don't really have an option of any other course of action, because to hire somebody who could come in here and take over that position would cost us a lot more than we're going to be paying.
And the lack of continuity.
And there's no time to,
Someone's going to need to do the,
there's no time to bring somebody up to speed. And the current person already knows the job or most of it.
right, and we have a good working relationship.
Right. Very, very confident in the recommendations of the interim.
It's the only logical move.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, raise your hand if you agree. Moved. Graphic arts instructor.
Okay, so in my earlier report on the joint committees, we need to hire a new graphic arts instructor. And as we look back, we're actually not hiring a new graphic arts instructor. We used to have a similar program here, so we're really, technically it's not a new position, it's more of a reinstating a position. But however you want to make the motion, we do need to hire a graphic arts instructor for next school year to teach the 3 courses that I described, which were graphic design, advanced design, and Adobe Photoshop, and anything else in between that we see as appropriate based on state criteria for the program. So,
May I have a motion to hire a new graphic artist?
So moved.
Second.
Third.
Wow, they come from everywhere. Jackie made the motion, Fran made the second. Discussion.
I think we all know the necessity of it.
I think we do too. I do.
Good timing, too.
I'm just gonna say that we can talk a little bit about the financing of it when we go into the next 2 things we're gonna discuss. Okay? Good. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. It's unanimous. We're gonna talk about the year ending 2020 budget. There's only one thing that we're really talking about, because we've already set the budget, and that is how we're gonna do the graphics teacher. Can you
Right.
help us out?
sure. So,
I was going to comment that we didn't, in the committee, we discussed the movement of one existing teacher to pick up part of the load of Tim Foley's course, and that allows money that part of it will go towards this new position.
no,
No, did I get that right?
so the 3 sources that we had talked about, again, were the 25 out of the 50 that we budgeted for program enhancements, the 17,000 that we had budgeted for a student management software upgrade that we are now not going to do based on state mandates on other software, I'll leave it at that, and an additional 6,000 to 8,000 from the contingency fund, our contingency line item. The shift of our instructor from pre-law to theater, what the plan is that John is going to teach part of his day in pre-law and forensics and the other half in theater arts. He has a dual background in both of those, believe it or not. And so what that's going to allow us to do is I'm going to post and look to hire a full-time video productions instructor instead of a combination position. Since we already have the talent in-house to do that, I think it makes the most economic sense for us to do that. But again, those have no impacts on the budget for next year.
So the budget hasn't been
budget
impacted
has
by
not.
hiring another educator?
No, it is not.
So
Will-
the only thing that we have to deal with right now is this addition of the 50,000 to the, even though it's been covered in other places, we just have to show that it's something
Been
that's going
reallocated.
to graphic
Yeah.
design.
Yeah, it has been.
And that's what we did,
And
yeah.
I think the sheet in the Dropbox shows that.
Yes.
Is that
right.
correct?
I think the important part is making it clear is that we are going to hire another educator. It's going to cost us roughly $50,000, and there will be no increase to the budget because it will be taken out of other areas that
Right.
we feel that we can do without for the time being.
Will this position result in more courses, more students at some point?
It should,
It certainly is our,
the six courses that we are doing next year, based on current enrollment, at Anthony, the group of business classes has about 79 students in it, and the group of graphic design, I think, was like 85 to 89 students out the course of a year. So yes, this is going to bring in more students, absolutely. What that means for us for FTE counts, I know it'll go up, but I can't tell you until we start adding the minutes up in the fall what that actually will be. So, but it certainly won't be a loss.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
so that's about the budget. I don't know if we have to do anything with it. I think it's already been done.
Actually,
Good.
would you mind voting to approve this
The revised
budget,
budget?
this revised
Okay.
budget? Because then that will be the budget that is put in the annual report and used as your budget for next year.
I'd like to move that we accept the revised budget. Yeah, that's it. Just accept the
Okay.
revised budget.
I second.
John moved, Jackie second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, raise all your right hand, please. Unanimous. Now it's tuition.
We do not need to, you voted on it.
It's not changed
This is
anyway.
not changing.
Okay.
I put that there in the event that the finance committee asked us to raise the budget and then we voted. We didn't.
And the ballot warning.
Ballot warning.
We'll have to go sign that, or?
So, Stephanie, do you want to talk about the ballot?
Yes.
Okay.
The warning that is in the Dropbox is the ballot or the warning that will be distributed to the clerks of the region and is what will be on the ballot on the vote for March 5th, 2019. So I'm asking for approval by the board to approve this warning, and then you'd sign it this evening, and we will post it during the correct window with the clerk of Bennington, who will distribute it.
Right, so it's.
I don't know if you want me to read it? Okay.
I don't think that's necessary. It's the same process we've used every year for the last, as long as I can remember. And so if you approve this tonight, you will need to go down to the town offices within the window and sign.
I'm going to have everyone sign.
Oh, everyone signs.
And I'm going to deliver it.
I misspoke, all right.
Sorry. I mean, if I make a mistake, you'll go down to the town office.
Yes, I'll go down. We need a motion to approve that.
Okay. Could I get a motion to approve the ballot warning, please?
So moved.
Second. Franny, move. John, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, raise your right hands if you agree. Unanimous.
On the question
No,
of
Stephanie, I'll say.
the ballot in the town meetings, historically, some of us used to attend town meetings in the other communities that are part of our district, and we would answer questions and explain the budget and the offerings at the CDC. And I'm wondering if we should have a discussion on doing that reviving that activity.
I don't know what other people have done in the past. I know you have been pretty active, but I do know that, like Fran, he tries to get to Shasberry and be there if there are any questions. I don't know about other people,
Yeah. I'm just trying to get the feeling of the board.
but I don't know if we've ever had a actual schedule or a date at any of these town meetings that says we're going to speak up on behalf.
Yeah, we did.
We did?
It was pretty formalized, and
Okay.
it would be decided who was going to go to which board meeting or school town meeting
Right, right.
for this. And since we want to increase enrollment, perhaps we should consider doing that again.
And if I could, Ricky as well, we, 2 to 3 years ago, we made a change in our mailing for our annual report, where we do postcards for basically the MAU region, and the rest of the district, we actually sent hard copies in nice print home in the mail. And because I live in the North Shire, I know that those got brought to town meeting, at least in Sunderland and Arlington, I can tell you they did. People had them in their hand and were looking through them, so I think that there was some form of representation. I think that also has helped with our presence in Arlington at the high school and our expanded efforts there. So I think we are being covered where most of our students are probably coming from. Certainly not the outlying towns like Stamford, Reedsboro, but we don't really see any students from that area due to the travel. So.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on. Field trips. We have a couple field trips, one to culinary, CIA, and one to Puerto Rico.
Not the CIA we all think of, all right.
Well, you know, it's funny, because every time I tell everybody my son graduated from the CIA, it's like, oh, man, he's an investigator? No, he's in the culinary.
The other CIA.
The other CIA.
So in your Dropbox, there's a field trip request for our culinary program to attend the ProStar Invitational, which we've done for the last few years, on March 21st, returning on the 23rd. We have won a couple times at the ProStar competition, so this is a standard, I guess, at this point, a standard field trip, if you will. Just need your approval for it, because it is overnight.
So moved.
Jackie made the motion, Fran second. All,
Ken said.
I'm sorry, Ken second. I'm getting old, hearing's going, gentlemen, and lady, of course. Any discussion? Seeing none, raise your right hand.
Our students have won this competition in the past at times, haven't
Yes.
I believe
Yes.
so.
Twice, in fact.
And it's very inexpensive, I mean, compared to other ones.
It is, actually.
Only 3 though are going, huh?
Yep. They have to qualify, and it has to be our year 2 students, and they also have to want to go. and so-
Yeah, it's okay.
That's what it is.
As long as we're represented.
That's right.
That's right. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. That's unanimous. And the field trip to Puerto Rico.
So the other one that's in there, I want to be right up front with you, is not a completely filled out field trip request. We actually met this afternoon to continue planning with Jim Godine on another field trip, a rebuild experience. It's not really a field trip,
Right.
to Puerto Rico. You're all familiar with last year's trip. Very similar to kind of the same setup. The only difference being this year is that Jim has arranged for 2 weeks to be in Puerto Rico. We think that is a little too long for the same group of students necessarily to be away from school and our home, some who've never left the tri-state area, to be gone for 15, 16 days. It's a long time, we think. So I think we decided today is that there's about 10 students who are interested and eligible to go, we're going to split those into 2. So there will be a first group, if you will, that goes, and that's going to be over April break. So some students will not miss any school during that time period. And then we'll regroup and send the other 5 to 6 the second week of the trip, if you will. So because Jim's worked very hard to get 2 weeks' worth of work and also lodging and food and all the things that go with it. So we didn't really feel it was fair to say, well, we only can do 1 week. So we thought the compromise is really 2 groups of kids, which is better anyway, we think. And so Jim seems very happy with that. What I have on here for you, I just really need preliminary approval to start, planning, a little more than planning for this, because airfare is already fairly expensive, particularly that's over spring break. Everything's much more expensive when you fly south in April or February for that matter. And so what I have on here is what we spent approximately last year on the trip. And that doesn't necessarily mean it came out of the local budget. There was fundraising. The Building Trades Corporation funded some of it. There were some donations. I mean, there's a bunch of things that made this, happen last year. It wasn't just writing a check out of our district account. So I'm asking tonight for approval to go forward with planning this trip and being able to purchase airfare and travel. And I will have more details for you like we did last year. It just, how it evolved. And I can't, we can't do anything without your permission. And so that's why there is something in there tonight for a field trip or trip request, although not complete, so.
And are we asking the public for more donations?
We will always take donations, but, what we plan on doing if there's approval tonight by the board is we're gonna sit down tomorrow and actually identify which group of students can go the first week, which can go the second, which chaperone's gonna be able to go the first week, which is the second, and there's a lot of logistics to figure out, and then also depends on what cost of airfare is based on what day they're traveling, all those things. So it is up in the air, but I just kind of give you what we spent last year, and it should be that or a little bit more this year. I think that last year that was a very rewarding and an experience for those students and both for our school and our community, and I certainly wholeheartedly supported it again, and I hope that the board would as well. That's what I have.
What was spent last year out of the CDC budget monies? As opposed to the donations and so forth that funded most of it?
I don't have those numbers in front of us tonight.
Okay.
They're a little more, they're kind of complicated to peel out because there are certain things like van rentals, and then there's reimbursements, and there's donations that were made, and refund of this, and credits to that. And so I can certainly have for the next.
Understood.
For the next board meeting, have very specific numbers of what we actually spent out of our local budget. But I wasn't prepared for that tonight.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Fran made the motion.
Second?
John, second already. Any further discussion? Seeing none, raise your right hand. Agree?
Thank you.
Okay. Superintendent's report, I believe, isn't it?
You have had it.
I've had it.
Well. My report tonight, I did not, I was planning on talking about the courses shifting, which we did, the retirements, the budget, the field trips. I mean, this is, you will see in your Dropbox, there, some information on our student of the month. If you don't follow our Facebook page, this is for the public, please do at facebook.com/SVCDC. It has a very active following. And as well as Twitter, Instagram, we're out there. So things are moving along well. At next month's meeting, there will be a brief presentation by our Community Education Outreach Coordinator. Nicole has now been here since October, and she's got her feet more than wet, and so she's going to come present at the next board meeting, as well as your former board member, Rob Bonney, who is our new Workforce Education and Training Coordinator. He has about 3 to 4 weeks under his belt, so he's going to come next month as well and do a brief report out on what he's been working on. So that's what I got.
Okay, well, there is going to be other, and the other I was going to ask is typically we take February off as our vacation. Okay, just throwing it out there, gentlemen. And
Well, you
Katie.
said we're going to have next meeting.
Well, whenever that is, you guys choose that.
Hey, am I mistaken? Typically, we don't have a February meeting.
But we've got the budget and everything.
From here, we head right to the
We
town
usually
meeting.
We usually leave it as a, if we need it meeting.
If we need it, right.
I mean, we can certainly call one if needed, but we historically don't do in February or in July.
Does anybody have any objections to that? Okay, so that,
Just want to thank them for having the Vermont statutes on executive session.
Agreed, agreed.
I think you asked for that, Ken, so.
And I think it's well worth reading
Yeah.
several times.
I didn't realize there
Because
was
it's a
that many
two-way street, you know?
issues. Yeah, there was quite a few. I thought they reduced it, but I guess they're...
No,
They increased it.
that's, I'm really glad to see that.
The town meeting is March 4th, and I've used the same slot again.
6:30.
Always the first Monday
Yeah,
of
Monday,
March.
And Sandy will remind everybody.
And what is it? Do you know what the time is at the?
6:30.
6:30.
Since we're the first ones to get our morning.
Don't be late or you'll miss it, exactly.
It's quick.
Generally,
The
with
school board is the following Monday, and then you'll decide all your reorganization.
Reorganization, correct.
Second or third Monday and all that good stuff.
Yep.
So we get the month of February off, but we got to double up in March. It's kind of like when I used to take vacations. You work twice as hard to get out, twice as hard to get back. Yeah. Any other discussion? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn? Randy makes the motion, and Ken makes the second. All in favor? Good night, all. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.